My name's Kelly Gilson, and I'm the Executive Director of United Way Oxford. And it is my pleasure today to welcome Giselle Lutfallah, who is the Director of Service for Children's Aid Society of Oxford. Giselle's a longtime community partner of ours, a long-standing volunteer, and just an overall community champion and a connector. And so thank you for joining us today.
It's my pleasure to be here.
We really want to talk a little bit about, I think, an innovative and creative opportunity that you pulled together and then came to United Way for funding to see that it could come to fruition. And I think it's a wonderful partnership, and it shows how really together United Way and all of these community partners can truly change lives. It's a perfect example of that. And so this program you've called the Rapid Response Program. And could you maybe tell us a little bit about how it came to be?
Sure. And so working at the Children's Aid Society, we work with a lot of families who may have difficulty in accessing resources, or who might be struggling with different in different areas. And oftentimes, families are seeking help, in our community, and we want to support that help early on to make sure that families have what they need to be successful and to move forward. So when we were looking at developing the Rapid Response Fund, there was an acknowledgement that some of the families we were working with were involved with other services, but they were waiting for services while they were in crisis. And so my experience within this community is that the service community wants the best for families. And everyone has their own mandates that they're operating within, but we also recognize that there were some gaps in services that we had to provide to families, children and youth who might be in crisis. The thinking behind Rapid Response was to make sure that if people were on wait lists and they were in crisis, that they had access to services immediately, either through private counseling or from other services that didn't have a wait list. And through the support of United Way, we were able, through the Oxford County Community Health Centre, the Children's Mental Health Lead in Oxford County, Welkin, Children's Aid Society, and Woodstock Hospital, to come together to make sure that families were supported and had access to services that would help them get out of crisis.
And one of the things that really resonated with us, there were many things that our volunteers, when we were reviewing the application and making decisions on how and if we would fund, we really respected the fact that you identified the gaps. You knew what the gaps were. You knew what the needs were for these families, and how they weren't being able to kind of marry those two up. They weren't getting the supports they needed in a timely, local, accessible manner, all of which really matters. And I have to think as a parent myself, if I felt my child was in crisis or our family was in crisis, I wouldn't want to wait on a wait list forever and ever. When you feel a crisis, you're in your crisis. And the fact that you were able to mobilize these partners to come together with a lens of that can-do attitude. We are going to find our way to make the difference. Really resonated with us, and the impact you're having is remarkable. So can you tell us a little bit about how you are literally changing lives?
Sure. And so just in follow-up with some of the families who were able to access family therapy, for example, they're identifying different ways of coping with stressors. Stressors are pretty guaranteed, especially within the last 2 years, where people were really, kind of developing a new norm. Sure has. And so when we were working with some young families and recognizing that they were struggling in their own relationship, and then that impacts the children. And so we have one couple who came forward to Children's Aid Society advising that that they were on wait lists, and they recognized that child protection was concerned for their family because of things that had been happening, but they didn't have access to the services that resonated for them or that they found helpful. And so we were able to make a referral based on what the family needed to a private therapist. And they continue to attend for sessions and identify that the improvement that has had on their relationship and then them as parents it would never have happened had they continued to exist on a wait list.
I think one of the other, there's so many things that we recognized as being of great potential value and opportunity when we first started funding this. And another area that we really liked was the fact that we know that one size does not fit all. Right. One program, one service, one organization, it doesn't matter. People are all unique beings, and what might work for one may not work for another. Mm-hmm. So it's not that we need duplicate. Sometimes people think, oh, there's duplications of these services. That's not usually the case at all.
No.
It's that there are modified differences for different reasons and for different audiences, right?
Absolutely.
So recognizing this, the partners really stepped up to find their way through. The other thing that we thought was quite fantastic is it builds a business case for our future supports in the county. As a rural community, we are not serviced the same way that many of our urban areas are, neighboring areas, but they're not local to us and they're hard to get to.
Absolutely, and there are always challenges around communication, and so when we look at intensive services that might be available in a larger area such as London, one of the things that we are finding is that when children come back to our community, they might not have access to the services that will allow them to remain in our community, or that there may have been some communication gaps, or we don't have the types of services that exist in other areas. And so some areas that we really recognized people accessing this fund were specific to trauma responses about abuse that they may have experienced earlier in their life, but it comes out in different ways. And so when we look at individuals who may have been sexually abused or physically abused, and what they need in moving forward, that not being available in the community you're living in, it's really tough.
It is. This is our home, and we know that people want local, supportive, easy access services, and together with your really wonderful partners, you're finding your way through with the lens of children and families first.
Absolutely. And when we look at the moving forward into the future, we recognize that our systems do the best they can with what they have available to them, but we also recognize that there are limitations to some of those services. And so without the support of United Way to recognize new opportunities or creative ways of addressing need, that I feel that Oxford does that really well as a service community, and in creating an environment where people feel that they belong, and that the service community has their back in moving forward and being successful.
And for us, this program, this rapid response partnership really aligns well with our investment strategies and our priority areas. And while it's targeted specifically into building strong communities with healthy people, which is, for us, a lot of mental health and addiction funding and supports, it really crosses all three, because this is truly about making sure that kids can be all that they can be and that the families have the resources to thrive. And this is also, there is an element of poverty in some of these cases, so moving people from poverty to possibility, not necessarily in all, but they really, it floats between all three of our areas so beautifully to make that difference for people living here in Oxford County.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So thank you to you and your colleagues for what you're doing, and the partners who are really putting the needs, the urgent needs of children and youth and their families first and foremost as they find creative solutions. We are proud to be a partner in helping you do that, but we know that we've seen the results. We know that you're literally changing lives.
Mm-hmm.
It is wonderful to have you here today, Giselle, and to talk a little bit about what this program is. And for families that might be interested, this is currently for families that are already associated with some of the partners, not necessarily Children's Aid, but any of the partners that are already on wait lists and that really are in a crisis mode, and it helps in the here and now.
Yeah, and we have been able to realize some referrals from the school boards and recognizing, so early help is available in ways that resonate for families.
That is wonderful. So thank you for joining me, and thank you for your work. And I would just remind people that this is a series of interviews we're doing to highlight not just United Way's investments, but the really impactful work of our community partners and our funded partners, and how by working together we really are a stronger community, a stronger village, for all of us to be able to live, work, and play in, and that this is such an important piece. So thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you soon.